Welcome back to the Run Radio podcast. My name's Trina, and my guest is Tommy Chong. Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you for having me back. Where am I?
You are on Run Radio in Springfield, Missouri. I'm buddies with your friend Rico from the Rico podcast. Rico and Eric.
Right.
Those two troublemakers.
Yes. Yeah. Are they still happening?
They're still popping away at theirs for sure.
That's good.
Yeah.
Always good to hear.
Yeah. We talked a lot about music last time, about how much you loved it. And in fact, our conversation took us to you growing up and how much you enjoyed Bible camp and your prayer life. And it was so interesting. But one thing I want to go back to, as far as music, how do you listen to music today? Like, what is the most you consume it? Where are you, in your car? Are you at home? Are you on streaming services? Do you listen to the radio? How are you listening to music these days?
Well, you have to, the path that I took, or that I was shoved onto. Excuse me. Music was the genesis of everything. When I was in the orphanage, they had church services every morning before you had breakfast, and you're immersed in it. You can't get away from it, and especially at my age, it was all part of my life. And then everything I did after that was connected somehow to music. Like the only the only luxury we had growing up was a radio. And when they put electricity into our house, which I saw them do, they put the light bulb in the top of in the center of the thing, and then they ran the line outside. It wasn't inside and down, and put the plug in there. And so when we got the family, my dad, I guess, got the radio. It was supposed to be for the house, but I used to. Everybody ignored it except me. So I would take it to bed with me as close as I could, and I was a radio geek. I listened to all those shows, music, of course, but it was mostly, the radio shows, The Shadow, Nose, and Amos and Andy, and Jack Benny, and Bob Hope, all those. And that was my first taste of comedy. And in fact, I remember hearing, Andy Griffith from the.
Oh, yes.
Okay. He started his career with a comedy record. It was the first comedy record, I think, made, period, because it was his description of football from a Tennessee farm boy. And he talked about, these people would, kick this ball, and then they'd have to run through this big cow patty. This pasture, and you try not to step in anything, and people were trying to chase you. Oh, it was incredible, and that was my first taste of recorded comedy. And so when Cheech and I, we got into the position to make comedy records, oh man, I was more than prepared.
I bet that was fun. What was that like? I guess you were in a studio
making the records?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. We did it at the A&M lots in LA, and that was so much fun because my experience with comedy and comedy records goes way back, and then Cheech's experience was with music. He was a music reviewer. And so then he would do these parodies of all these songs, like he did with Born in East LA and, those songs. And so it was a match made in heaven for a while,
That sounds like a lot of fun. So I'm picturing you both in the studio. Did you already have stuff written, like a script, or did you just improv, a mix of both? What was that like?
It was mostly improv, you know.
Really?
Well, by the time you write it down, you could be doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. That's the way we like. I mean, you only write if you got a book, and even when the book dictate everything into a and get it, the stream of consciousness is my mind was much more much faster than my ability to write anything down. And then I would get distracted. I get easily distracted.
Yeah.
In fact, I've been uh, enjoying my humor with myself, laughing, laughing at how stupid I
Oh.
can do. And it's not like stupid, and then you realize it later. It's stupid immediately. I I tell this all the time now because it's so funny. I carved these little figures. I got a little fetish about
Oh,
carving stuff.
cute.
So I carved these, and what it is, it's a joint holder, or
Okay.
or or a, or like a cigarette holder, you know. And so the good part is that you set it down and the joint's sticking up. It's not going to burn anything. You're not going to lose it. It's not going in some stinky ashtray. And so I make these, and there's I don't plan again. I just start carving, and the wood really tells me what figure to put on it. And so then I graduated to antler, deer antler, and so I carved this little guy out of it, and
Oh my
it's like
God.
it's it was actually quite easier to carve than the wood because it was you know the grain is smaller. Anyway, I carved this little guy. Then I put a rope on it, like a necklace thing, and I tied it around my neck. Anyway, I think maybe 10 minutes later, I said to myself, okay, where's that piece that I carved? Then I went on a search, but it was a laughing search because I just carved it. It was in my hand.
Right.
Where did I put it? Where? And I'm looking all over my desk and looking under the desk, looking, moving stuff, looking. And all the time I'm laughing because I know that it's got to be close because I just
You just
finished. Half a day went by. I couldn't. So I'm getting ready for bed, and I reach up to take off my necklace. I laughed. I
you
laughed.
know where that guy is.
I laughed so hard. And then I told my daughter, she roared at it. My wife, nah, she's so used to me doing this all the time. That wasn't that didn't strike her as funny. But I've been see when you get older, you lose your facilities, your faculties. Is that what it's called? Um, and and a lot of old guys, they get really miserable, because they can't do what they used to do. Well, I evolved to the point where you're not supposed to. That's the whole point of getting old, is that you put that behind you. That's when you were a kid, that's when you were young. And then I also, it kind of made why Cheech and I broke up. All of a sudden I said, oh, I get it. I get it. Because I watched Jerry Lewis, Dean Martin biography, and in the beginning they were way, way more active than Cheech and Chong were. They had nightclubs that they would, get booked into for weeks on end, you know, and so they had the same stage, and sometimes they did two shows or more shows, and Cheech and I, we hit it when the rock and roll era came into being, and so you had huge stages, and they weren't really set up for intimate comedy like Martin and Lewis, and so Cheech and I, we broadened our scope, But what we had in common was the youth. Youth is so special. It's so uh, divine,
Mm-hmm.
but it's only for the period of youth. Now you can think like a young person. I kept my say when I was 17. I don't think I evolved past 17, mentally, but physically, when you're young, oh, you can do anything, and then as you get older, you can't do anything. But except become an observer, and that's what I've been doing. I've been watching myself and laugh because I do have these weird poverty kind of ways. Like I collect bottles. Like my wife, she eats these yogurts with
Oh,
these kind of things,
little jars.
and for a while there, she'd just eat it, throw it away, and I saw this, I'm from almost the Depression era, so when I saw anything like that, because when I was a kid growing up, uh, there was no garbage pickup. And what you did, well, first of all, there was very little garbage
Yeah.
because we couldn't afford anything that made a package. And if you got anything with a package in it, sometimes the package was more important than whatever you got in it.
Yeah.
And that's where I grew up. So I'm a collector just by survival.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started collecting these bottles, and then I noticed, because I there's another thing we'll go over, but I noticed my wife now. she disposes of them.
Like where you can't see them.
Yeah, hides them in the garbage, but there's another thing I learned just recently about judgment. Like there's a commandment about judge not,
Mm-hmm.
and that is so important. That's one of the most important commandments there is. Do not kill, for sure. Is big up there. There's only one God, absolutely. But yeah, the commandment of judge not is so important. It's so important that I can't even talk to unbelievers or correct them, because if I were, when they start doing judging, and if I were to correct them, I would be judging.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, so the commandment is really for yourself when you're at that, when you evolve to the point where you can understand that.
Yeah.
Other than that, you got to be very Buddhist and allow people to make the mistakes and do what they do and vent or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then the other one is agree quickly with your adversary.
Mm-hmm.
See, that way there's no argument. And if someone wants to be right, let them. What's the difference? It's their nightmare that they're going through. And so, you can't impose, and you should not, and you must not impose your will, because it's totally different. It's your opinion. And unless you're personally involved in some way or another, your opinion has got to be kept to yourself,
Mm-hmm.
because you don't want to upset the natural order of things, because we're here really to make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
People try so hard not to, to be perfect in that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's not the key to happiness. The key to happiness is to be uh, loving and helping others. And a lot of times helping others is just keeping your mouth shut, especially if you know the answer, you know, and someone else is struggling. Giving them the answer doesn't help anything, but letting them create the answer themselves is everything. And so that this is very, very, very heady stuff
Hmm.
that 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 I'm very happy that we have these podcasts that I can come on and people are ready. Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
there again, see, that's another thing. See, this world, as crazy it is as it is perfect because what's happening in this physical world of ours is all sorts of violence and chaos and seemingly, uh, you know, disorder. But that's what you need when you create,
Ooh, ooh, that's deep.
or 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 when you cook. When you cook a meal, you
Yeah.
know, it's not already cooked. It doesn't already look ready to serve. No, it's all in its raw shape. And so you got to chop, dice, and squash,
Make a mess.
and make a mess, and then put all the ingredients together. Then cook it under the right conditions, add the right taste, all this. That you're in charge. You see, but it doesn't come out finished. It's you start you start with all the ingredients, and then it's your knowledge of how to put everything together. You see that's the that's and then that knowledge has to be earned and learned and all that stuff. And then uh, you only share what you can share, but you can't share. Uh, there's a lot of things you can't share because you're not meant. It's the people aren't. They're supposed to go through the same routines that you go through. So it's and it's a learning thing. It's kind of almost like a double-edged sword, because you know these things, and then you see other people tripping over themselves because they don't know, and that's why I think a lot of spiritual men, the gurus and that, they got little twinkly eyes, and they got this little know-it-all smile, little smile, because like myself about the necklace, when you know that you are totally responsible for your own stupidity and you own it, and then you see the humor in it, that myself, as far as I'm concerned, now you're one with the universe, you know
I
like
think
the
that's a
other,
gift. That's a gift to be able to see that perspective and find the humor in it. But what about when there's so much pain and it's hard to see? I mean, what do you say to that?
well, pain is definitely a physical feeling that's that it's like a marker. It tells you, okay, don't if you want to get rid of the pain, do what you have to do. But the pain is there for you to learn. It's like a little kid. Like I watched my little granddaughter learn how to walk, and she was scooting and falling, but I couldn't help her because she had to go through all the pain of learning how to walk, what to do. You don't do this, you don't do that, and they learn very quickly. Doesn't take long. Like she banged her head one time, and then I watched her after that. She just put her little hand over her
Oh,
head. But you see, this is a physical world, and the reason it's physical is so we can learn. You can't learn anything in heaven.
hmm.
You're just there. There's nothing to learn. There's no need, want, desire, pain. There's nothing but pure love. You see, and when you're in pure love, there's nothing to learn. There's just everything to enjoy. You see,
Hmm.
to enjoy. But the pain is to let you know. Oh, you can't do this. You got to fix that. You got to. It's like a warning sign. If you didn't have pain, you wouldn't have a human race. Because we only learn from pain. Hello, and it's my son. I'm on the podcast. Okay. Hey, come here. Son, embarrassed?
Come say hi.
Give me my card. Oh.
Hello.
She said hello. Hi. That's my boss.
Your boss, yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
he takes care of his dad.
that's awesome.
He's a very, very cool guy.
Good. That's
Again,
gotta feel good.
huh?
That's gotta feel good to be able to say that about, your family, how cool they are. Cause I love that about like my relationship with my parents to say, yeah, I'd be friends with them. You know what I
Oh,
mean? If they were
yeah.
family. Yeah.
Well, again, everything's ordained. There's a reason for everything, and there was a reason, like I got taken away from my parents early in my life, and it just made me appreciate them more when I finally got them. But not only appreciate them, but be content with the knowledge that you existed without them.
Mm.
You know, and so that's why I am where I am. You know, and my kids they have a whole different life. They were either lucky or unlucky enough to be born into my family.
Mm-hmm.
And I have in my search. It's a spiritual search that I've been still on. All my life, but it's so rewarding. But you got to learn to keep your mouth shut and judge not. Oh my God. When that message came through to me, I still revel in the power of that.
Yeah.
Because when you don't judge, then you become an observer.
Mm-hmm.
Like, have you cook hard-boiled eggs, right?
I've done it.
Yeah.
I don't do it a lot, but yeah.
I still haven't found the right way to cook a hard-boiled egg that would please my wife,
Okay.
because I tend to get it out of the boiling water before the egg yolk hardens,
Mm-hmm.
and she hates that. When she breaks it open and the yolk is still a little soft, she likes that yolk to be hard.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't been able to reach that point yet. I do it accidentally, again, like losing my necklace. I'll forget I got the eggs cooking. And then I'll come back. Oh God, fire off. Oh, take the eggs out. And now they're hot. So I leave them in the pot a little more, and the yolk gets hard. But it's by accident, not by design. And that's what I am. I'm a creature of feelings. I don't have the patience or something to do things methodically. So that's why I'm not I would never make a good cook or a good artist or anybody that has that ability, the patience to finish. I'm so Gemini. I bounce from one thing to another. That's why I'll go into a room and I have to stand there for a long time thinking, okay, why am I here? What am I looking for?
So with knowing your personalities like that, and it seems like to me, it seems like stuff just kind of comes naturally to you. It's kind of like a gift. What about other people that are searching for their purpose or don't feel like they have a purpose? What do you say to that?
Well, they're in the midst of learning. So you just have to observe. You just have to sit back and watch and care. Make sure that
Yeah.
there's no danger around. And what they're doing. But if they're doing something that you don't agree with,
Mhm.
and that, but you can't say anything. That's the whole thing. It's judge not. Now, if a speeding cars coming down the road and you see they could get hurt, yeah,
Yeah.
you totally do something like that,
Right.
But if it's a karmic thing, where they're, especially arguments with family or stuff like,
Yeah.
you don't want to get involved in their growth. This is
Right.
how people grow. This is why you have arguments and fights with your family.
But what
Why? Mhm.
but what would your advice be, like, if I came to you and I said, Tommy, I can't seem to find my purpose. I've tried, I've prayed, I just don't get it. I don't know why I'm here. What would your advice be to me?
Uh, my advice really would be, well, it's like taking the pot off the dish before it's finished. And you're still learning. You're in the middle of a learning process. So just put up. Oh, it's like people with cancer.
Hmm.
People come to me all the time. I got cancer. I got cancer. And so I tell them why. It's something that you have to deal with. This is part of your karma. You were put here to have cancer. Nothing happens. There's no accidents. You might think there are, but there's no accidents. How many times has people bought a winning lottery ticket? And they said, I just had a feeling, I just had a feeling, and I don't know. I didn't even realize I won until my wife said, oh, by the way, you won $1 million. And by the way, there's some spiritual books, the I Ching considers winning the lottery a misfortune.
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, because we're not here to start off with everything. We're here to start off with nothing and then learn our way up to, and then and you have to learn. See, because this physical world of ours is so exact. Think about this. We can send a spaceship millions of miles away,
Right.
and yet figure out exactly where they're going to be at a certain time, because the universe is predictable. It may be far away, 100 million miles away, but it's still predictable because things are they're going to happen. There's, the earth is still going around that sun, it's not going to stop, and it's going to turn a certain way. And it's just, that's the way it is. Now we're suspended in the universe, everything moves in the universe, and we're part of it. See, we're all part of that. And so we're on a ride, and that ride, it doesn't last forever. It's only for a short period of time,
Hmm.
giving us the ability to evolve and to become whatever, and then to go back to heaven and to start all over again and start figuring out what you need next. What course do you want to take? What do you need? What are you lacking? So you take, say, Hitler, who was responsible for all the genocide and everything else, he'd be in heaven. There's no hell. People, it's writers and creative people that depict hell as being hot, but it's physical. See, so if there is a hell, it'd be on Earth. It would be in the physical world. See, because there's no fire in the spiritual world,
Hmm.
because there's no cold, there's no heat, there's no need for any of that. And the reason why is because heaven is the opposite of the physical world. In the physical world, which includes the universe and the galaxies, and where we can see it in the telescopes, we can go back hundreds of millions of years to see what the world was like, because of our ability to see that. But this is the physical world. And everything has an opposite in order to exist.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have up without down. See, if you just have up, then it's just suspended. It's like heaven.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's nothing there. So everything in order to exist has to have an opposite. And so in the physical world, there's everything. There's galaxies, there's moons, there's stars, there's explosions, there's shooting, there's everything in the physical world. There's oxygen, there's gases, there's all sorts of chemicals and everything is in the physical world. What is the opposite of the physical? What is the opposite of everything? Nothing. So the spiritual world, there's that saying about 20 angels dancing on the head of a pin?
Yeah.
Heard that? Yeah. Well, what the poets are really saying is that the spiritual world is so minute, it's so nothing, that's why there's no overcrowding in heaven. There's no such thing as crowd. So in heaven, there's just the feeling. And the feeling, because it's not physical, is spiritual. And the essence of spirituality, or the spirit, is love. Because you are immortal. There's nothing can hurt you. And nothing's going to make you grow old, or there's no, you just are. And what you are a little electron, a little piece of electronics, because that's what humans are. See, even in our human life, we have positive and negative.
Mm-hmm.
That's what creates gravity.
Mm-hmm.
Positive and negative. That's what creates electricity. And the positive will always be positive, the negative will always be negative. And when they get together, they create energy. Energy. Because you have these absolutes. And the energy can be devastating, too much electricity, like a lightning hitting somebody. That's way too much electricity, or it starts fires or whatever. It's chaos. It's a very, very physical world. And so when the artists come up with the idea of hell, they mixed eternity, eternity with the physical.
Mm.
And in other words, what's feeding the flames? There's a place in Calgary where I lived in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and my dad used to drive truck in Lethbridge. At one time, the world was looking for coal, because coal was the substance that ran the steam engines and heated populations, heated homes, and created smeltings. You want to get different metals and everything else, use coal. And so there was a coal mine in Lethbridge, Alberta. They started, a fire started in the coal mine. Well, it's a thing of coal, a whole strand of coal. There's no putting it out. And so this coal mine used to burn, and when you drove by it, the ground would be glowing.
Oh, wow.
Around it. It was all red, like a fireplace.
Right.
And that's what it was. It was a fireplace. And so you could go and you could feel the heat and everything else. But there was no way to put it out. So what had to happen, and it happened over the years, it burned out. It ran out of fuel.
Mm.
That shows you the physical attributes of the physical world that we're in. Nothing lasts. Everything has a shelf life. It's
Yep.
going to burn out, disappear, change. It's going to change. You see, spirit world, because there's nothing to change. It's just a thought. And that's what we are. We're a thought, but we're divine. We're thoughts of God. And therefore, we will always be here in one form or another. Because our job really is to relay our experiences to God, because God is too pure to understand or no, or to even to be with us, other than in spirit. We're with him, we're part of God, you see. And that's our job, really, is to gain experiences. And so sometimes we're here to be the baddest on earth, bad, oh, terrible. But in order to create the other side,
The opposite.
yeah, you have to, that's what you have
That's
to
a
do.
perfect way to sum it up. We're almost out of time, but I want to thank you so much for this. It was a beautiful conversation. I appreciate your time. I hope you'll come back and share more on where you're at in the world and more of your beautiful thoughts on life and beyond.
Well, I owe it all to that gift from God that we all enjoy now legally, and that's the cannabis plant. I got my cruise chews,
Yes.
the gummies. I can't take them. I OD'd on them the other day, and I couldn't wake up. Oh, no. I did them the night before, and next thing I know, I couldn't get out of bed.
Oh my goodness.
I gotta get up. No, I don't. That's another joy about being old.
There you go.
I got podcasts to do, but that's okay. I'll just do them, and that's it. Okay, I gotta
Thank
go.
you. All right, bye. Thank you.
Love you so much.
Look, bye. Come back.
I'll be back. I'll see you next time.
Okay.